Hey everybody, and welcome along to our market analysis show for today, the 27th of September 2020. My name is Paul B, and I'm the head trader for Actions to Wealth and Online Trading Profit. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to the show today, and we will be joined by our trading team. In a few minutes, we will have Alexis come and talk about fundamentals, and soon after that, we'll have Ash in for four charts. I think I've got a few of the team in the room. We'll just pop around and see how they're doing today. Ash, how are things in the UK this morning?
Things are good, mate. Things are good. We are trying to get through all the pandemic worries that we have over here, but things aren't too bad. The sun is shining, but it is getting cold. I'll tell you that much. The weather's changed.
I love it when you say that, Ash, because daylight saving started today, and it was still rainy, but a little bit warmer in New Zealand, so that was okay with me. Alexis, how are you? How are things in Singapore today? Not sure if Alexis is ready to come straight in. Shukri, how about you? Big event for you yesterday. You did your first event with us on Crypto to the Moon, was it? I can't remember what it was called, Shukri, but we got some very good feedback on that. Sounds like a pretty busy room. Did you enjoy doing the event yesterday?
Yeah, I had fun really doing it. I think the people asked a lot of questions. And today I'll show you the result. I'll show you a farm today.
You'll show me a farm? Fantastic.
Yeah.
We've got a group of people. So some people opened their wallet and funded them yesterday?
Yeah.
Fantastic, eh? Look, there's nothing like that, is there? You know, when people take those first steps, and I think when you work in the industry like we do, you forget that for people, it's actually a massive thing. The first time you decide that you're going to, and you know, there's some of our clients, some new people, but the first time you decide you're actually going to do something, actually going to put a little bit of money somewhere and see if you can make some more money from it. It's a huge moment for them, and well done to those guys for turning up and doing that. Look, before we, Alexis, you with us?
Hello.
Hey, Alexis, how are you?
Yes, okay, I was accidentally muted. Yes, doing good.
Have you had a good week?
Yes, had a good, decent week.
Good, decent week. Some thunderstorms in Singapore from what I read on the weather app. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I like the rain. It keeps the weather cool. So, yeah, better than hot sun.
Yeah, hey, Fad, how you doing? I don't mind the rain either. I like a bit of heat. I don't like getting too cold. Everyone thinks I'm a big guy. I don't mind the cold, but I hate the cold. I like the warmth. It is nice to think that New Zealand is warming up as we speak. Some guys are starting to pour into the room as we get into this today, so welcome along. Look, before we go to Alexis to do fundamentals, I am going to take us for a bit of a look through, a bit of an open up on what's happened in the market this week and what lays ahead. I'm going to start on Forex Factory and just talk about the week ahead for news releases. Alexis may want to build on this. The most important part of the news was daylight savings started in New Zealand on Sunday. It's 7 o'clock this evening. Was actually, I thought about having a barbecue. It was lovely. Chinese holiday, a different holiday on Monday to the one that's coming at the end of the week. This is the autumn holiday, I think. We've got ECB President Lagarde speaking on Tuesday and Wednesday. These are Singapore times. Yes, these are, they're not Singapore times. Let me see what's happened to my, it's New Zealand times. I think we'll dump this back out to GST plus 8 and do this in Singapore times for you guys. Now just got to get the calendar open again. There we go. So it is Monday night at Singapore. ECB President Lagarde speaks, and Wednesday night. China back on holiday Thursday, Friday, the following Monday, Tuesday. Can't help but wonder what Trump will do while China is on holiday. Elections coming up. I imagine there'll be a little bit of rhetoric during this time. I'll be watching that pretty closely. ISM manufacturing PMI on Thursday, and the news comes in on Friday with the average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, and employment rate. And really, this is the one we'll all be watching, non-farm employment change, what's happening in the States. We have had a dollar rally, and this will be a little bit dependent. I think how long this will go will depend a little bit on those numbers on Friday. Now, quickly around some, that's not the right thing to push at all. This, if you think by now I'd have Zoom under control. Quickly around some charts before we go to the team. Just a quick look at what happened last week, and we'll start off with the NASDAQ, which really didn't do a lot. Started here, ended here. Not a big move in the NASDAQ, and does look like it's heading into a range to me. S&P 500, a little bit different. Overall, continued the mood down for the week. Bit of a revival late in the week, but for mine, still lower lows and lower highs. And I'm still a little bit bearish on this overall. Oil still sits in this gap. And I know it's closed the gap, and the gap should almost be redundant, but it's tested the bottom, it's tested the top. And I suggest a breakout to the top here may see this gap go and some moves up. But I think we'll test the bottom of it again, personally, first. Gold this week. What did gold do this week? Well, gold sold. It finally broke that blimmin' range that it's been in forever. Look, I know we're not supposed to care whether it goes up or down, but we do care when it does nothing. And it's so nice to have it out of this range. A little bit of consolidation on Thursday, a little quiet selling bar on Friday. Really the question for me on gold right now is it going to consolidate in this area, or is it going to push down and look at some targets? Ainslie will do targets for you guys on gold a bit later on. I know she's been in that. There's one down around there. Euro also broke out of its range and continued to sell down, and has an obvious support level down around here. Probably a few more in the intermediate as well. It's a bit hard for me to get to them because every time I go to my controls, Zoom puts something over the top of them about which I can't actually get to anything at all at the moment, which is a bit frustrating. And also. US dollar, Japanese yen. The US dollar, Japanese yen has rallied all week and finished on tie, broken one level of resistance, got another one up here. Just hesitating around here. It'll be interesting to see what it does on Monday morning. And the other one that moved really this week was the Aussie New Zealand, with the Aussie losing a bit of power against a somewhat surprisingly strengthened New Zealand dollar. Rightio, a bit of a start at what's happened last week, some news coming up, but really what we're interested in what's going to happen this week. Leading us away with some fundamental overview is Alexis. Alexis, what do you got for us?
Hello. Can you hear me? All right.
Hi, we can hear you fine.
Yeah.
We can hear you. We can see you. Everything is good.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I'll just take the screen and just a quick update on the fundamentals. So fundamentals usually medium, as I mentioned before, it's medium to long term because it does take time for stuff to change. It does take time for markets to react. So we've been on the euro dollar watch, I think, since a couple of weeks. And again, I think last week, if I'm not wrong, I think Ainslie pretty much called it, where she said that if the price breaks this low test bar, this level over here, the price would actually waterfall down, and actually Ainslie called it pretty accurately, and it really did drop, really sink, straight away from this bottom of the channel. So what next after last week's so-called drop is, let's just have a little bit of understanding on two things here. One is the euro and as well as the US dollar. So a quick peek into the US. All right. So there's this whole talk about Trump versus Biden and what's going to happen. And I'm just going to give you guys a couple of websites or resources that you can go read out on yourself. And I'll probably just post the links later on after my session so that you guys, if you are really interested, you can go read up on your own. So basically, what we're looking for is Trump, he's a Republican, and Biden's a Democrat. And what this website tells you is the comparison chart of their philosophies, their stance on spending, etc., etc. So, in a way, this kinds of sets the stage for example, there is expectation if Trump wins. Investors or analysts, they are expecting the US dollars to continue to strengthen. If Biden wins, then they expect the US dollar to weaken. So this is just a general kind of analysis, right? In terms of based on their policies, what the president will do for the US currency. And that is probably one reason why the US election is pretty much talked about, is because the political parties' stance on certain monetary policies and fiscal spending will kind of direct where the currency will go. All right. So this is, again, to understand a little bit more about the complication of the election. I've got another article here where there is debates or there is discussions already where they're talking about Trump or Biden, who's actually best off for the dollar or the euro. All right, and again, I'll post the article in the website. I'm just going to give you a summary. Is that there are two camps on this, and one of the camp which I find really interesting is, regardless of whether Trump or Biden wins, all right, there is an expectation that the US dollar will continue to strengthen over a longer period of time. And this is really interesting because, we have been talking about US dollar weakness for a while. And I am kind of a little bit more in the camp of dollar strength. And mainly and I come from a very numbers point of view, it's mainly the stats. All right. So if over the last, let's say, quarter, couple of months, we kind of track the figures coming out from the US, we kind of track the figures coming out from the euro. And the figures I'm looking at mainly are inflation as well as the unemployment rate. So interestingly enough, next week, towards the end of Friday, we have the US unemployment rate coming up. So that should give us again whether or not it's in so-called in line with our expectations. So again, if we look at just the unemployment rate, it's really curious to see that the unemployment rate has been steadily dropping. All right. I know it's not something to joke about, but is it because people are not quite making it? That's why we need more people to get the jobs. I don't know. All right, but this is like tangent thought. All right, the death rate is so high. It's in a way, positions are being vacated. If it's a little morbid way of saying it, so don't quote me on that. But it's curious enough that the unemployment rate in the US is steadily dropping. You can see every time they do a statistic release, it's 1% down, 1% down, 1% down, 2% down. So I'm really curious to see what the next number will be. All right, if we compare it, let's say, for example, just the euro area in terms of jobless rate, you can see on the contrary, it has been increasing, maybe not at a 1% rate, but it's increasing steadily. And even for countries, part of the euro set will be Germany. You can see Germany has also been increasing. So I only mentioned Germany because it comprises Germany and France comprises one of the bigger groups in terms of the euro market area. So France has been dropping, so I guess that kind of evens it out. Now, if we look at countries like UK sort of stable and a slight spike, in terms of unemployment rate. And we compare this with inflation. So I'm switching over to inflation. If you look at inflation on the US, you can see inflation, as I mentioned 2 weeks back, it's been steadily going up. So I'm really curious to see whether inflation or productivity will continue to go up to kind of sustain. Inflation has to kind of go up if jobs are being increased, right? Because it has productivity and unemployment kind of inversely related. All right. So if we look at the euro side again, you see inflation has dropped into the negative band. All right. So which goes to show, based just on, if we talk about productivity, we talk about unemployment figures in terms of GDP generation. All right. Then I would say that there is a probability there that supports the continued weakening of the euro and the continued strength of the US dollar, despite whatever the election says. All right, because at the end of the day, while news and election moves markets in certain directions due to speculation, I think the medium to long-term view is really whether or not the company is healthy enough to continue producing, to continue keeping its people employed, to continue keeping its inflation numbers at a certain level, and to keep the unemployment figures down. So my take for the euro dollar is, for now, still a look towards the downside. Also, if you kind of add on Lagarde's so-called view, I mean, the Europe side has been worried about the strength of the euro. So I guess they really won't be they probably will be pleased that the euro is dropping a little bit. And especially for Germany relies a lot on exports. So I guess they wouldn't be unhappy about the weakening of the euro in terms of a trade perspective. So what I'm looking forward for next week, is more opportunities on the euro dollar, especially on the shorter time frames, because I use the fundamentals for a longer term bias, but the shorter time frames for entry position. So I will be looking at probably more retracement first, right? Wait for retracement first and look for opportunities to then enter into certain horizontal levels. And for those of you who trade my strategy, you will know what levels I'm looking for. So we'll see you guys next week on whatever show we'll see you on. All right. So any thoughts on the euro dollar, rest of the guys? I think that's my 5 minutes. Yep.
Cheers, Alexis. Thank you for that. Look, Helen, it's the same chart. It is just a chart on TradingView, isn't it, Alexis?
Yes, just TradingView.
We will be doing something to get the team on TradingView on a centralized platform not far away. I keep meaning to do it, must get around to it. Look, next up is Ash and talking about variety. Thank you very much, Alexis. Always interesting. Actually, Alexis, come back for a sec. No. Employment. Employment's the key to watch right now, right? I don't know because you look like you're not muted, but
Yeah, all right. It's my mic. I've got a new headset on, and there's a mute button right at the back here, so I can't tell whether it's on or off.
I bought a new one this week as well, and it's so crap I can't even use it. Going to go and buy another new one this week. So employment is the thing to watch during this stuff. We've got employment going up in Europe, employment going down in the US. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say it just in jest, that perhaps the US unemployment rate is dropping because there's less people left to be unemployed.
Yeah, I was kind of hinting at that, yeah, but
constant rate at the moment. I don't sound insensitive and make a joke of that because I'm not insensitive to that. That's not a great place. But so we've got US unemployment falling, European unemployment growing, and that is causing the US dollar to strengthen against the euro, and that's causing this chart here with the US falling, right? So we're going to watch the numbers pretty closely as a guide to see where we might go next, right?
Yeah, coupled with inflation as well, because the unemployment figures kind of affects the inflation figures that comes out in terms of productivity. Yep.
Yeah. Look, inflation. Both of them would be pretty close to zero inflation, wouldn't they, right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a fascinating thing. I think the next big thing for currency traders, we might have sit it out for a year here before we see it, but as these countries start and differentiate their interest rates, and inflation comes in and employment rates change, we are going to see trend. And we'll see interest rates drop out from, negative 1% out to 4 or 5%. And that will create long-term trend in the currency market and great trading conditions. And look, it's not what's here right now where interest rates are very similar. And it makes for markets that tend to wander back towards each other a heck of a lot. But boy, there's some change coming, I think, and look forward to it very much. Can't wait to see perhaps the middle of next year we may see a different world to the one we see now. Let's at least hope so. Rightio, thanks, Alexis. Much appreciated as always. Ash, we're going to have a look at 4 charts, talk a little bit about the market. How you going? What are the things to watch this week ahead, mate?
Oh, do you know what? I think that there's so much to talk about. It's difficult in some respects to know where to start, but I agree with Alexis. I was going to start here with the S&P, but I do want to touch on the euro because I agree with Alexis. Christine Lagarde must just be so happy that the move in the dollar has managed to weaken the euro a little bit, but she's going to want a lot more movement than that. And she's not the only one. We'll talk about that in a moment, just in a bit more detail. But let's just start with the S&P. And what I expect for this week, there is a potential trading opportunity, but not necessarily in this. There is opportunities, that there will be opportunities in the S&P, and if we are focusing on 4 charts, we could lump probably the S&P in with the Dow and the Nasdaq for right now. Maybe less so the Nasdaq. It does seem to be a slightly different beast. But look at this on the weekly chart, and it looks like this area down here at around about the 3,002 level. 3,200 level is the rejection point for right now, and I wouldn't be that surprised to see us bounce around here for a little while. I'm not anticipating a breakthrough these upper levels before the US election, but I think we may have defined our range. That it's broad. It's a very, very broad range. Maybe these highs here, down to there. So there's almost between a 5 to 10% range going on here, which means that there probably will be opportunities. But I think it's going to be tough. I've got to say, we were talking before we came on air, and I think it's going to be a really tough opportunity to take, because if you look at the charts on the weekly, we are still in an uptrend. And that would suggest that time, over the next few weeks, we would probably see, a few weeks to few months, we'll probably see further moves to the upside. The question is, if we are in a range, where would we like to position ourselves to get that move to the upside? And are we willing to hold? And my personal thought would be, if we get near the bottom end of it again, then I'll be quite happy to maybe look for buying opportunities. This area right now is not too bad, but you've still got quite a broad spectrum of price to kind of contend with. You look at this on a daily chart, it's still in a downtrend, and it suggests that maybe settling down around about the 3002 level, which is this low down here. Maybe one more time to try and pick it up. If we see some kind of price action reversal pattern down there, then I might well be interested. You know, this 3 chart pattern here does look like a morning star, so it looks like that there is some buying and maybe some fairly significant buying, but I haven't seen anything that really suggests something that is all that committed at this particular stage. So I think if we are if we're going to focus on the range, we've got to kind of think, well, are we likely to go higher or lower after the election? If we're likely to go higher, we can try and pick some positions up at the bottom end of the range, and then just hold on for dear life, effectively, and hope that we end up somewhere in the middle of the range, so we can get stops at break even before the US election really plays out, and then see if we can take off for another leg to the upside. But there are a lot of moving parts, and this is why there's so much to talk about in many respects. And one of the moving parts, is Alexis has touched upon, really is the dollar. And the dollar's is in a fascinating scenario and situation here, because we see here with the dollar that that we have a move back into this area potentially. You know, we were all looking at this inverted head and shoulders down here. Let me just get rid of this. We're looking at these inverted head and shoulders down here, and price has broken to the upside. But again, just like we've been looking at with the S&P, this is in a downtrend. So I'm not really that convinced that this all of a sudden is going to turn around and start moving higher. I still think the dollar's got a fairly decent chance of going lower if it hits around about the 96 level. It could be 95. Geoff and I have toyed with 95, but I think between 95 and 96, we could see the dollar turn around. If the dollar turn around, we see the euro turn around, we see the Swissy turn around, we see gold turn around. So I think we look at the dollar index to really get a good gauge of what we'd like to trade in respects of how we express the move that could potentially, as I say, come back down again. But I don't think is yet. I still think there's some move to some room to run with some upside dollar, which again puts those equities in a little bit of hiatus, and I think that probably freezes them where they are, or within that range. I think it's the same with the euro. The euro continues to weaken somewhat. I think the Swissy would significantly weaken somewhat. But if we go back and start looking at the problems with that, then the Swissy I find probably the most fascinating and the most interesting when it comes down to this. Because if we look at the Swissy, and I haven't got onto my final chart yet of what I'd like to trade this week, but I just want to touch on this. The Swissy has seen huge moves to the upside against the dollar. As this comes down, this is the dollar Swiss. So as the dollar comes down against the Swissy is moving up. So this is the Swissy strengthening and strengthening and strengthening. Now, all of a sudden, it's broken away. Another inverted head and shoulders down here. So this is played out perfectly. Now, the Swiss National Bank do not want a strong Swiss dollar. So, sorry, a Swiss franc. They don't want a strong Swiss franc. So this move to the downside was not good for the Swiss National Bank. Now, they haven't really done anything hugely not controversial. What's the words? They haven't really done an extreme. They haven't done anything hugely extreme to kind of get this back on track for getting it a little bit weaker. And we see this move to the upside. And as Alexis was saying about the euro, Christine Lagarde being pretty happy with the euro weakening. It's the same really for the Swiss National Bank. They want to see this weaken. And the reason that they want to see this weaken is that as things have changed in the, with the global pandemic, people have moved over to the Swissy for some as a potential safe haven, just like they do with the dollar, with the Japanese yen. So it has almost been over it stated how valued the Swissy is. Now, the Swiss National Bank also traditionally have kind of slightly higher interest rates, but slightly lower interest rates just to kind of balance things out a little bit. But what's happened is the nations across the board have been lowering their interest rate and been more in line with what's happened with the Swissy. So inevitably, it has strengthened. Now, because we know that these national banks do not want this to happen, the Swiss National Bank don't want a strong Swiss franc, not overly strong. Same with the euro. What we're waiting for is a move on their part, which counteracts the lower interest rates that are being brought into play with the likes of the dollar and the pound as well. So it's making it less and less competitive. So the question is, what will they do? What are they going to do to kind of weaken the Swissy significantly enough? And this is where we start to get into the dollar may well be a strong player for the next few weeks as we go into the election. But what happens after that? Because as the dollar strengthens, it kind of sorts out some of the issues for these other countries. But what happens after that? What happens if the dollar does turn and we start to see a weaker dollar? Do these other countries then start to say, you know what, we can't handle the dollar weakening again and our currency strengthening because we're just not competitive anymore? They have to increase balance sheets and they put their financial health under great risk. So there's a lot of moving parts going on here that we need to focus on. Now, the last chart that I want to bring you, and the chart that is the what I'd like to play in the near term. So if we're talking about this stuff, it's really longer term play, and it's just something to be aware of as time goes on. We can't just hit the button and say, well, the dollar's going to turn here, so let's start to trade the Swissy in the opposite direction again. Because we need to make sure that we are aware of what the Swiss National Bank's policy has been, up until that point. They may do nothing while it's weakening, but that might put them in a position where they think maybe now's the time to move to get it to weaken even further. Now we've got a bit of momentum. That will put us back as well to gold. But as I say, the final chart that I'd like to bring in is copper. Because I've been looking at some of these mining stocks, and I wonder whether we might be at a bit of a turning point with some of these. Now, the copper, the chart for copper is tradable in itself if you've got it on the broker, but you can get more specific, and I'm much more interested in going into some of these mining stocks. I'll talk about them more next week, but there are, I think, maybe opportunities to kind of trade copper as a bit of more of a nuance than just copper itself. But when we look at this on a weekly, hasn't really broken down significantly yet. But if we look at it on a daily, then this has actually taken out a trend line just here. Just along there, we've seen the copper chart kind of break through. Is this a significant enough test? And it may well be. That might even be a little bit lower. Is that a significant enough test? Well, it might well be, because we've seen it refuse. It's tried to get back above to this level and beyond, but it's refused that particular level. So this is why I'm quite keen on copper for next week. If we're talking about the near term, what would we like to see and what we'd like to trade in the near term? Copper's kind of coming up as a bit of a winner for me. So this is what I would like to this is what I'd like to try and trade next week. I will go through it in the UK and US session when I get in, but not 100% of my focus, but a lot of my focus is going to be on a moving copper to the downside. So potentially looking for some bearish moves in copper with a target somewhere down here at $2.70, I would say. So we're up around about two. Well, we're up at about 3 right now, so down about 2.7. I'll be looking for taking profit in dollar, well, in copper, which is around about a 10% move. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'd say that probably wraps me up. I think I'm done on my time.
Sorry, mate. It's not about your time, mate. I just put a little quick thing into YouTube, asking the team if they wanted us to discuss anything. We've got nothing in the chat here for anyone at this stage, but we've had Dominic come in and ask us to do silver. And I thought I might involve the team, mate. We might have a little team chat about silver. I haven't had a look at silver for a little while. Do you have a silver chart, Ash?
I do, yeah, and I think it's a really good topic of conversation as well. Silver. It's another chart that I've been looking at.
Just going to warn them that we'll get PH and Alexis to come and have a look at silver straight after you, mate. So let's go you, then Paul Hutton, who's in the room. Paul said you've got a mullet. What's he talking about, Ash?
Oh, do you know, he's absolutely right. And I was looking at that like just earlier on. I was like, geez, I'm starting to look more and more Australian by the day. Yeah, got to get rid of the mullet. Got to get rid of the mullet. Do you know what I've been doing? I've been hacking at my hair on my own, which is not good. I think I might crumble this week though and go to see the hairdressers. Apparently they're very safe, so I'm going to go. But we got spikes over here, mate. I mean, it's like, you know, I think my paranoia is justified in this country. Look, it's pretty dangerous.
Look, I'm going to open this up for discussion. I'm going to open this up for good morning, Simon. Welcome along. Hey, Pedrillo. Nice to see you as well, guys. Crystal, Mullets are in. I'm going to open this up. We could do a little fundraiser. Perhaps we could donate some money to a cancer cause or something. And all we need to do is have Sally come in and
oh no, I'll get Molly to do it. I think she'd love that.
Molly come and shave your head. We'll raise a few dollars.
Yeah, be happy to do that, mate, for a charity, not a problem.
Hey, Shukri. Hi, everyone. Nice to hear from you guys on the chat. Lots of people liking the show. We do appreciate it when you like the shows on the different things. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube. We are running a bit of a competition at the moment for those that subscribe to YouTube. Welcome at Ainslie as well. We'll involve you first, but Ash, let's do you on silver first. I'm going to have a quick look at the silver chart because I'll get into it, but we'll go you, Paul Hutton, Alexis, Ainslie, and then me.
Yeah, well, silver is a fascinating chart. I think I feel the same about silver as I do the S&P. To be honest, I think a huge drop to the downside with silver. Now, there's no doubt that that the price of silver will be affected by the dollar, and because I suspect we'll probably be easing a little bit higher with the dollar before we hit the real rails. Then I think we could see possibly silver just bounce around in a little bit of a range, but I suppose I'm more bearish than I am bullish at this stage, with a bullish outlook in the longer term. You know, I would like to get silver. I'd like to get silver in the portfolio, but just not yet. I still think that there's probably some moves to go with silver. But if we look at where we are now, and this is the real kind of question. If we believe, look at that, it's right on the level there. I really like where silver is. We are in a buy zone. I think we do probably pop higher. And I think maybe the dollar takes a bit of a rest next week, you know, which is why, you know, I'm focused on copper for my near term. But the dollar over the next month, I suspect over October, I suspect will just bobble around but be slightly higher. But over the next week, I wonder whether we might get a bit of a pause in the upside with the dollar, and we could actually get a bit of a bounce in the likes of silver. But I really like where it is. It is in a buy zone. We do have this hammer here, and it's a clean one as well. So it's a beautiful bar, that is, because with a hammer, you want it to be hammering out a low where there's nothing else around it, and there's no other price action in the where the tail is of this. So it's hammered out a low. It looks like it's done the classic move that hammers do, which is hammer out where the lowest price point is and then bounced up. And it doesn't have price action to the left of it, directly to the left of it, and it doesn't have price action directly to the right of it. So far this looks pretty clean, and it looks, technically speaking, like we could get a bounce here. And as I say, the big question is, are you trading a bounce, a dead cat bounce, or are you trading a potential continuation of the longer term trend? I suspect we could be in dead cat bounce territory. So I would be looking at silver for a little bit of upside, but probably only to around about 24.80 before it could start potentially turning around again. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't think it's a really good price down here longer term, but what I'd like to see on the price action is it come back again, test it, and then hold, and then I'd be interested in taking in silver long and holding on to it for a while. But my first position and my first opinion on silver would be look for a bounce to the upside, but don't expect it to go too much higher than around about the $25 mark.
Let's hear from PH. PH, what do you got on silver?
Mate, it's not a chart I look at a lot, but I got to say, you know, what goes up must come down, and there's a similarity there between silver and gold, right? Both of them hung around, consolidated for ages, formed a bit of a pennant, and we were all kind of flipping a coin to decide whether they were going to break to the upside, break to the downside. I think the general bias was to the downside. And that's what happened really on both of them. So I'm seeing a lot of correlations there between, you know, XAU and XAG. And I like Ash. I do like that. I do like that. What I'd call it a low test bar sitting on the, you know, sitting on the trend line there. I hate to go short on these commodities because, especially with gold, I've just got a rule. I just don't short gold. I'll short the Aussie dollar, right? Which you know has been also kind of going out in sympathy with gold. Yeah, I think, you know, like longer term, I think it's a good, you know, maybe a good time to look for accumulation opportunities, but not something that I would trade.
Cheers, PH. Alexis, got anything for us on silver?
Well, I don't really look at silver as well, but the interesting thing about silver, I think there was an article that in recent years the cost of producing silver has actually increased, and this is some. Let me just quickly share this chart so that you guys can actually gauge for yourself. There is actually
cost, I call it, right? The marginal cost of silver, the cost of production, right?
Yeah, correct. And also there's this in the UK, apparently there's this institute that researches on silver. So that had some interesting results, which I'm just going to flash, and then you guys can decide. So this is from the Silver Institute. You know, it's a research thingy, and you can see silver supply and demand. So the cool thing is they actually show you what has happened with the silver and demand. So over here, 2020 FF is forecast, and in 2019 and 2020, you can see that supply and of course demand has kind of dropped. I think it definitely has to do with industrials and the factories that are not using as much silver as before. So because silver is a commodity and commodity prices and are really based on the powers of supply and demand. So I'm not a big fan of silver because I think it's not as good as gold, and it's a little bit unpredictable personally because I don't quite trade it. But I think if we look purely at the technicals, I'm a little bit concerned it's at the level where the cost of silver, this was wrong article. This was in 2017. So over here, there was a estimate of the cost of silver. So the price now it's really around the cost of silver production. So it then comes with a question mark as is this sustainable, and will it really mirror the price of gold? So while I don't trade it, I do kind of read up a little bit, but I'll leave you guys to decipher for itself. But personally, I prefer to buy gold. I'm a little bit on the Paul Hutton team of waiting for gold at a good price and buying it other than silver. Yep, that's all I have.
Well, the person in our organisation that likes to buy gold the most is Ainslie. Ainslie, what about you on silver? What's your thought on that silver chart?
Again, like Alexis, I prefer gold over silver. Always look better with gold than silver. Oh, we're a lot of gold. Now, Paul, can you just grab that screen again and go back to that chart? Because one of the things, Ash's chart, one of the things I saw on that is, we do have a hammer. We're looking for a rally or for a long position. What we'd be looking for is that hammer to be the hammer being the penultimate bar, and then the ultimate bar on Friday did not close above the high of that penultimate bar. So for a ring low to form a trade setup for a trade long, you'd want that last bar to close above the high of that hammer. So for me, despite the uptrend and the levels being bounced from which it was bouncing, it doesn't give me enough to even look at that for a long. Now, for silver, it is highly correlated to gold. Gold did not form any kind of hammer. It really lost its spark on the week, Thursday and Friday. It didn't do anything it was meant to do on Thursday and Friday. And for silver, yeah, I think with what's coming up in the week ahead, we just need to be really, really careful. So yeah, that's me on silver. I'm not a big goer of silver because I tend to trade something that's more heavily traded with more volatility, with more volume. Something, and I do that with all my trading. Go with the higher volumes.
Yeah, look, I get all that stuff, and I agree with you. There's some great, some good enough from all of you guys. I tend to, I'm going to go here that for mine, I've got this range was up here, the break of the range is pulled down. I've now got a test bar. I've got coming off a few recent lows. I'm prepared to look for a leg up here, but I'm with Ash, and what I really want to do is see where it ends out. And a retest of the of this level here looks a bit far away from mine. But if she was to pull up and put in a lower high and then reverse, I'd be pretty interested, and I'd be looking for what happens around here. When we get to this trend line and this area of support again, if we break it, I think we're going to the races. And if we get a bounce here, then we'll look to put in a higher high and a higher low, and then have another crack at it further up. So stuff to watch, and some different views from the team on that. So a little bit on the fly now. I am talking to people in YouTube. Hey, thanks for the likes on YouTube, guys. That was brilliant. Now it is time for Shukri. We have no Lloyd and no Ping Ni today, so no currency strength indicator and no oil today, but we're going to Shukri, and from Shukri we'll be going to Ainslie to do gold, and from Ainslie and gold we're doing perhaps one more around the team on a different chart. I think we might have a look at euros and get the team to do that if everybody's still around, and then we'll go to Geoff to have a look at his 4 charts, hopefully out of the show about half an hour from now. Shukri, big day yesterday, mate. Keep you nice and busy.
Yes, it is definitely a big day, and also let me unmute. Okay, let me unmute. Okay, something weird happened this week or last week, and I'll show you why. Okay, I'll show you why how the crypto market is really changing. First, you see Bitcoin. I've been saying that Bitcoin likes to play games with our hearts. Okay, it went down, and while gold was going down, was following gold, went down. Teases us. Okay, maybe I'm going to break. Maybe I'm going to retest that CME gap again, which it hasn't, and then suddenly pulls back up again. Okay, what's going on here? And then not only that, you see here Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum does the same thing, obviously. Yep, pulls down, pulls up again towards the end of the week. So something clearly is going on here. So suddenly, and all of this was happening, Bitcoin and Ethereum and the entire crypto market was going up while the dollar index is going up. That's kind of weird, right? So what's happening here? Okay, we see the NASDAQ. Yes, the NASDAQ is going up also. But again, in order for this to happen, there has to be a lot of demand for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the rest of the crypto space. So let me show you another interesting coin or crypto that in the 2017 bull run was really hot. It's called NEO. And what NEO is, it is essentially the Chinese Ethereum. It's a big coin. It is a very high capitalized coin. Kind of lost its way. In fact, now if you talk about the Chinese Ethereum, it's not even NEO, it's IOST. But I think a lot of people still remember NEO and the good old days. Okay, so you see here, while the market was going down, when the crypto market was correcting, NEO has a habit, it's going up, correcting, going up again, it corrected and then went up again. So this NEO demand has something to do what it did, because when a Bitcoin announces something and something is really happening, and what NEO announced several weeks ago, and there was a lot of buying here on NEO. I didn't see this until I saw the statistics. I was quite surprised. I'm going to show you the statistics on Ethereum and on Bitcoin. What's going on? Well, NEO released a farm on NEO, and previously it was all Ethereum, right? But when NEO did it, guess what? This is the NEO farm. It's called Flamingo. And someone, Brian Lee. Yeah, Brian answered the quiz correctly, right? I said it was a bird farm. Well, it was down NEO. It's a very important farm. NEO is from China, by the way, Da Hongfei. And look, they pulled in like 1.3 billion US. And that's why you saw that surge, right, in NEO here, which is this. And look, they even included BTC, Bitcoin, and they even have Ethereum in there. So I think this is amazing. And USDT is actually a US dollar coin. It's pegged to the US dollar that's also running on Ethereum. And this demand, and look at this, they can even stake on Binance and OKB, and all of these went up. And 1.3 billion is such a big number. It shows you that in the crypto space, it's really different now. There are people now that are looking for yield. And I think this is what's attracting the not new kids, probably these guys are more mature people, mature investors into the crypto space to actually keep NEO, WBTC, and WETH on a farm. So let me explain to you what WBTC is. It's wrapped BTC, because you know when NEO is a separate blockchain than Ethereum and Bitcoin, and we had a good day that day, right? I think yesterday we tried to transfer Ethereum. It was quite quick. And then we tried to transfer Bitcoin, and I think we all forgot about it, right? Because it took so long to transfer Bitcoin, because you know the technology for Bitcoin is really lagging behind Ethereum. But what NEO has done is with this WETH and WBTC, it has allowed people to put WBTC and WETH onto the NEO blockchain, okay? Before this, you can't put the natural Bitcoin and you can't put the natural Ethereum there. So doing a farm is quite complicated, okay, guys? You have to convert it first before it can go on other blockchains. But yeah, I already said that I would set a farm. So I'm just going to show you an example of a farm. I'm not sure about the yield yet, but you know, 1.3 billion says a lot of things, right? It shows that a lot of people are expecting big yields for this. So am I. And this is my farm now. Now, Flamingo is going to be listed on Binance on Monday, so we'll only know the yields then. I think it will start with close to 1,000% per annum yield. So I already put in this 5890 US dollars. You see here, I have my NEO. It's not even NEO, okay? Again, for farming, you have to have different type of cryptos than the normal ones. I have Ontology here. So how it started was NEO was the public blockchain. Ontology was the private blockchain. And look at this, guys. It's given birth to how many? Okay, now I have 81 flamingo birds. So we'll see. We don't have the APY yet, but we will have the estimates of the annual yield possibly on Monday when this gets listed on Binance. So it's something that's really very, very different. And all of these are really driving up the value for all these coins. So that's good, because while the US dollar is going up and all this, you know, gold is going down, I was expecting Bitcoin to go down. Nope. There are other reasons why it's going up, and it's good that the crypto space is bringing in a new type of investor. Okay, Paul, any questions?
No, mate, no questions.
I've got a question,
Yeah.
Shukri.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say 1,000% yield in a year?
Yes, 1,000% yield in a year. And I'm just comparing with another Chinese coin. The one that came before this was something called TRX, which is Tron.
Mm-hmm.
They started with 1,000% yield. Now, this is how 1,000% yield works, okay? And this is how this is why, Paul, there's a rush to buy this, Ethereum, and all these things also. And it happened on a Thursday that day, because when it starts with 1,000% yield, it usually goes down like that. So those who are early birds here get the cream of the yields. Now, if you wait a month, it goes down and goes down and goes down. So currently the strategy is now and when you're a farmer, it's a very advanced strategy. It's not like we're waiting to go to the moon. No, if we can catch the early yields here, guess what? We find another farm with a similar yield. We find another farm with a similar yield. And if you're good at that, you are going to get 1,000% a year. You won't get 1,000% a year sitting here alone, because this thing will go down. But as farmers now, if you can find 10 good cryptos that give 1,000% yield a year, you're going to get that 1,000%. And that's what we're doing. We have to be fast and nimble.
Okay.
Sounds a lot. That's more than the banks give, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll see next week, Paul. I'll report on this because I have an actual figure that I put in, and this will be listed on Monday. So at least it will tell our audience, hey, crypto is not only about mooning or trading or investing, it's also about looking for the yields. And when it comes to yields, a lot of people that are more mature and have more gray hair are very interested, okay? It's not only for the young guys now.
Yeah.
Cheers, Shukri. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We're going to go to Ainslie and do gold. Thank you. And we look forward to the update on it, Shukri, to see how you go. PH, you going to add a bit later on as well?
Paul, I don't have any. I mean, I'm doing some market analysis now. I don't see anything that's really exciting yet on my charts, but I'll see if I can find something good.
Fantastic, mate. We'll go to Ainslie to gold, pop in and check in with PH, and we're just waiting for Geoff to join the show to round us off with some technical analysis. Thank you very much, Shukri. Let's talk gold with Ainslie.
Oh, hi, Paul.
How you
Gold. Oh, good. Well, if we can just share that gold chart back again, that would be really good. Shukri, and let me tell you, I do a really good job at hiding my grey hairs, but I've probably got more than you. So,
You're interested in mining too, Ainslie, because you're already doing gold, right? Now you can mine some things.
no, I've got to get onto your course, Shukri. It sounds amazing. Otherwise, I can't have my kids doing Bitcoin and all this other stuff and making more money than me. That would just not. That would really unbalance the authority in this house. Let me tell you. So yeah, I've got to get onto your course. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back to gold. And yeah, I had a nice little short on gold. Thank you, Helen. Yeah, and we've got this huge triangle, and I hate triangles. That comes from being taught by Julian, I think. But yeah, we had some. We had a nice little drop, and where the lower line, that lower horizontal, is sitting at the moment, we're looking at it's bouncing off the 100-day moving average on a daily chart, and it's sitting right on your monthly support one, S1. That's where it is. It went down. But what's really interesting, and if you go to a 4-hourly chart,
is that simple? Or exponential for you, Angel? I know
I only do 200 simple moving average, so it'd be 100 exponential. Sorry, thank you. Yep, cool. So it's bounced. Yeah, it's bounced off that 100-day moving average, and let me show you that line that Paul has got is your S1 on your monthly, absolutely perfectly in place. So what we've got there is we've had that break of that triangle, and it's not looking up, is it? It's looking pretty ordinary. But if we go to a 4-hourly chart, Paul, what we had this massive move down Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, look at that, down it went. This was me getting back into the market actually after a couple of weeks off with moving house and no internet and all the rest of it. And I got out at 1862, and I was looking for another breakdown lower, the next leg down, and I just didn't get it. I just got rubbish. Thursdays are renowned for being a bit of a sell-off day, and Fridays you often see the market rally coming into the weekend. People squaring off, it's looking good. We saw neither Thursday and Friday, and we just had basically, nothing. And we didn't even have as much movement you had more movement in silver than you did in gold. How this continues for this next week, so we're coming into non-farm payroll on Friday, we're coming into more heated debate on elections, the US elections. We've got, it mightn't be as widely known, but let me tell you, China is really having a very terse tete-a-tete with Australia at the moment over minerals and a few other political debates. Australia is possibly punching above its weight with China and trying to hold China accountable to what they knew about coronavirus and how this pandemic started. So there's a lot politically going on between China and Australia is really, it's lashing out, but it's getting a lot of backing as well. So how that is impacting the whole scenario economically, we've just got a lot going on in Brexit. We've got the US elections, we've got what's going on in Europe and possibly a second wave. And the second wave is one of the things that's really dogged oil going any higher as well, is just, you know, oil as a separate issue, but gold, look at it, it's just gone nowhere. And you would think after that massive sell-off, what you normally see after a massive sell-off is people jumping in and buying it and pushing prices up again. Didn't see it. It's just gone sideways again. So for me, gold going forward this week, I'm waiting. I'm on the sidelines. I am looking for it to could possibly drop to another level, 1815, which is the level that it really took off on. Remember when Paul actually gave us, yeah, there we go. So you gave us this beautiful price when we went drop down to 4 hourly, and people said, where did we go in? And Paul even gave us the 1805 number, which if you'd gone in on 1805, you would have made an absolute killing on it. So 1815 is that level where it breaks that last box before it took a major rally. If it breaks below where we are and everything else keeps going the way it's going downwards, I'm looking for, yeah, if you see gold drop, take some money at 1815 is my recommendation. I think that's a nice safe area to take money at. Oil
sounds good, Ainslie.
Still bearish. I'm bearish on oil. Yeah.
So we're bearish oil, we're bearish gold. I think we, you know, I don't like the show, but it's just a bit of and the same as last week, right? It's a bit of a wait and see start of the week, right? We just need to see some direction, right? It's a lot of stuff that stop on really good support resistance.
Yeah, like SPH said, you know, I'm looking for something to go with, and it's just really tough. And if that's the case, there's probably more an indicator that there's a lot going on. A lot of spinning wheels. We're coming into the end of the month. People are squaring up positions. You know, we're looking at all those kind of things, and you just need to be really careful, because not only have you got the end of the week, end of the month, you're going straight into non-farm payrolls, and we're not that far out from the US election, which will just, it's a game changer. So anything that you look at, that you see, go carefully, tight stops.
Look,
and just see how you go.
Thank you very much, Ainslie. Much appreciated. PH, how about you? Got a chart for us, PH? Are you done?
No, I've got a couple of things to look at here. Right, so, okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Yes, and it should be that one. Okay, I'm sharing the euro pound, because I had talked about this last week, and actually we even took a trade on this on the Daily Wave Rider morning show earlier in early last week, and it promptly put in a lower high. And so I'm looking at it from two different perspectives, right? So one is, okay, it's disappointed me, so I've moved my stop loss up, okay, to protect my capital, and I got stopped out, right, for a reduced loss, which I'm pretty happy about, because anything I can do in terms of capital protection is, you know, it's good overall as a trader. And I'm looking at two possibilities here. One is that we are starting to make a bull flag, which means it'll make a bit of a lower low, and then it will still go higher. And the other possibility is that it's making, it's forming a pennant, which could break out either way. I like the first possibility more than the second one, but in either case, I need to wait until price either comes down to, I don't know, back to maybe 90, 50, or even lower, maybe down to the 90 level, which is a great horizontal level. But at the moment, it's just like, nah, nothing is happening, right? So it's a case of wait and see. Now, what I think is more interesting is this, and I was lucky enough to get, I got short the US dollar yen and made some money on that, and I got long the US dollar Swissy, yeah, and I made some money on that. So I was like, and so if you look at the Swiss yen chart, and I'll bring it up, hang on a sec, Swiss yen. If you look at the Swiss yen chart, okay, it's just been a bit of a free fall, okay? So I'm not trading Swiss yen short, but effectively, because of my other two positions, I was benefiting from this big move down. And I'm a big fan at the moment of what Ash talked about earlier was the Swissy softening, and that's not just based on US dollar strength, but it does seem to be one of the weakest currencies at the moment. So I am looking at the next currency to benefit from this is going to be, I think it's going to be CAD Swiss. So if you look at the CAD versus the Aussie versus the Kiwi, CAD is much stronger as a commodity currency. Yes, US dollar CAD is weak, but it could be reaching a point where it's actually going to top out around about 135, I think, which means that if the CAD strengthens and the Swissy continues to weaken, we've at least got some upside up to this horizontal level here, which is 70. Yeah, it's a psychological round number, and that would be, and I'm already long this, by the way, and I think I got to my TP1 because I was an intraday trade, but I think that there's still room to move up here. We've got a same level high, we've got a higher low, and it just looks to me like it's got a real uppish feel to it. TP1 at 70 or just below, and then just hold on to it and see if it can ultimately break that 70 level, test the 200-day moving average, which it hasn't tested for a while. That's a little bit more upside. It's not necessarily going to the moon, but if we can stay in there and just move our stop loss up, and best case scenario, if the CAD gets a bit of get a lift, I don't know where that will come from, but if the Swissy stays weak and the CAD continues to not weaken too much, this could push through the 200-day moving average, and then there's no other horizontal resistance levels, and probably until 70, maybe 71, 70. So that's another 170 pips that we might be able to make there. That's what I'm most interested in coming into this week.
Cheers, PH. Very nice. We're watching that pretty closely. We are. That looks very interesting, mate. We're going to go to Geoff next, and we're going to run through his currency pairs. Probably take us till about quarter two, and we'll wrap her up then, I think. Next week, guys. Hey, PH. Next week we've got Chloe in with us as our guest. She'll be in early doing 4 charts, and it'll be the last time we have Chloe in until the birth of the baby. So. Probably Chloe's last time with us, at least until Christmas, New Year. So if you're around next week, do come, and always good to have Chloe on board to do a little bit of analysis for us. She'll be our special guest next week. Make sure you come and join us for that. Now, next up is Geoff. Geoff, how you going?
Hey, bud. Yeah, going well. Yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. How's Tasmania?
Beautiful. Perfect one day and better the next.
Looks a bit chilly where you are to me, buddy.
Mate, I have got the jumper on. That's true. I've got the fire on downstairs. It's a little bit of a icy into. Well, it's the 3rd week of spring, I suppose, isn't it? Should be better, but that's pretty typical for Tassie. I doubt that you're much different, mate. To be honest, you're just got the heater on, haven't you?
Dalen, no, heat pump's not on, mate. But the tortoise, the turtle tank, the one that stays on the ground, it keeps this room reasonably warm anyway. But daylight savings today, mate, stayed alive.
Oh yeah.
Mate. Next week for you guys. But yeah, nice, mate. It feels like summer's coming. I look at Ash and I think, oh, he's got winter coming. That must suck. Summer's coming far better.
It's almost tomorrow for you as well, isn't it?
It is not far away from tomorrow. I've got an early start too tomorrow. Mate, 4 charts, or how many charts are you going to do, mate? What are you going to take us through today?
Yeah, look, I can come up with 4, I think. I think PH has been reading my script, though. So I'll have a little squiz around the CAD Swissy as well, because I think that is the buy. I agree with that. I will share screen and show you what's up.
Cheers, mate.
If I can find the control panel, of course. It's disappeared again.
Look, I know when you're at home, so watching the show, this stuff must look quite frustrating for you guys. But honestly, what happens with Zoom is the control panel jumps in behind the screen that you're sharing. It can be quite hard to find. So just literally moving the screen around, you guys are watching, and you guys can't see it moving. But to try and get to the back, to try and find the screen's got to share. And fortunately for the company, Geoff and myself are technical geniuses.
They just ask us everything, don't they? How do we fix this problem?
But we've got it sorted, mate. There's some charts. Let's get to the charts, eh?
The good part is we're geniuses starting the problems as well. I think that might be the issue.
If we want a degree in that, we would certainly get it.
Aussie CAD. Look, interesting about the Aussie. I don't know, honestly, in my heart of hearts, why the Aussie would be tanking last week. But it did, and I think it had a lot to do with what the deputy governor of the RBA had to say. But I heard Ainslie touch on this as well, and I've been talking about this for the longest time. When they started putting tariffs on things like barley and beef, this is China I'm talking about. And through all of that, we saw the Aussie rally. Yet we are now, in my mind, certainly forming a top here. And that top has been broken last week, in fact, on Thursday of last week, where we saw price break the bottom of this range. I expect that's going to continue, but it's a bit tough to just jump in here now, although part of my strategy dictates that if I see a bar like that crossing a trade line like that, it's pretty much a dominant breakout. And for that reason, I think there's the potential for even just to put an entry here and put your stops above the highs. I don't think that would be a stupid move, but from a risk to reward point of view, or reward point of view, I'll probably be looking to wait for a retest of the broken trend line, which of course is next week's weekly pivot or tomorrow's weekly pivot, which is that white line that you see on your chart. If I have a look at the bigger picture on this, it kind of contradicts what I'm saying, because we've been in this channel for a fair while, a couple of breakouts to the low side. And generally when I'm looking to come from the bottom of a range, which I call a channel, anything that's got 2 lines on it, or even 3 or 4, I don't care if it's a circle. If they're bouncing off, then I tend to look to the other side. And for that reason, I'm a little bit conflicted, because we haven't come to the high side of this off the bottom yet. So yeah, I'm not 100% behind this, but this is too big a bar really to ignore. Why it has happened is an interesting scenario. And I don't really know that there's too much, well, I think the market's actually read too much into what has been said by the deputy governor, or whatever they called him. I can't even remember his name. So the point is, technically, we've got a double top, or a triple top, if you like. We've broken not only the trend line, but also the bottom of that range. And I expect that this will continue to fall to where? Yeah, that's always a great question, isn't it? But the strongest level of support and resistance that I can find underneath this in recent times this year, let's call it 2020, is down around the 90-60 level. That's what makes it attractive. And even if you, as I say, traded that big breakout bar and put your entry below that and put your stops above here, you've probably still got No, you haven't still got, you've got 1-to-1 only. That's not the worst trade to take, mind you, but I think there's probably better on offer in terms of a reward to risk. I'll pause there if anybody wants to ask any questions on Aussie CAD before we move on to kind of a counterpart to that, which is CAD Swiss, which PH touched on a little bit earlier, and I'm in full agreement with him.
Geoff, great to hear that we are seeing things the same way. I'm honoured to great minds think alike. I do look, I try to look at as many crosses as I can to try to figure out the strongest versus the weakest. And this is one of the key charts for me to say the Aussie is weak, and the CAD less so. Yeah. So if
whatever the reason, it's certainly clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, to me it's clear, and obviously to you it is as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming off the top there, you've probably got very little choice but to go short, I would have thought. Aussie CAD. I've got to have that bias going into tomorrow anyway, regardless of what else I see.
Yeah, there is some room for a retracement there, but that'll be perfect because it'll make a lower high and then go down for the next leg. I'm saying it like it's going to happen. It's likely to make a lower high, and if it does, then it's likely to create a second leg down.
Yep,
and
agreed, mate.
Effectively, make a sort of a not so clean double top.
Yeah, it's pretty cool in here. I think that's clean enough for me. I'd be more than happy to call that a double top, if not a triple top. The key level here right now, of course, is where we are. And you can see how many times we've attempted to break through that. Nice little ascending triangle there that got broken as well. And this level here is, stands out like the proverbial greyhound's testicles as far as I'm concerned. And that's tomorrow's weekly pivot. If we can come back to there, then yeah, that's a sell for sure. But as I said, I think even on the weekly chart, you could take that on that bar there. I think you could trade underneath it and put your stops above the high if you wanted. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, mate. Yep.
So whilst we're talking about making sense and great minds think alike, let's put it that way, it's very, very difficult to ignore what I'm seeing here on CAD Swiss as well. And similar to what I've just described, we've just had a massive breakout of a level that's been hanging in there for, almost 3 weeks, I suppose. And if I go to the bigger picture on this one, it's a little bit hard to see because of the decoupling of the euro to the Swissy back in 2015. But if you take a look through that line, which is tomorrow's weekly pivot, mind you, we have broken below it. We've come back above it, and we've retested it to the low side. This looks to me, for all intents and purposes, as though it's going back that way, off this low, if you like, and now we've put in a higher low. As I said, it's a bit tough to see on the monthly chart, but when you bring it back to the weekly chart, you can see it pretty clearly. There's a beautiful tweezer bottom sitting there, followed by a higher high, followed by a higher low, and now a classic little slingshot setup that we've got sitting there as well, where we've approached the trend line and pull back away from it. Not really the third test on the weekly chart, but we can certainly drill down a little bit further. And everywhere I look, I see the same thing. I see an approach and a pullback, and that pullback's getting less. And that, of course, gives us the higher low, sorry. And now we're looking to take on that trend line. So I think there's really a trade to the trend line, if nothing else. That's the daily chart I'm looking at. I'd really like to see a pullback to the top of the range, frankly. This week's weekly pivot is the white line. And if we were to be so luxuriated, if I can put it that way, and I'm not sure that's in Webster's, but it'll do for now. It's in Geoff's. We'll pull back to here and look to enter the market here and trade it to the trend line in the first instance. And if we're fortunate enough to break through there, then there's a nice reward available to us as well. So fully in agreement once again on CAD Swissy. I see this on a longer term as potential for a little bit more toing and froing inside this area here. So I'm not 100% sure that we're going a long, long way, but this level here looks pretty cool to me, where we've had these highs. It's a strong resistance level. Trading there, taking profit there, taking profit there, and I think it doesn't really matter if we don't go through there, as long as we've got 2 profits in the bank. And if it then comes back underneath here, then I'll certainly look to trade it in the opposite direction. But I think that's certainly something that I'll be watching from tomorrow. If anyone's got any questions on that, but I doubt it, because I think we've made a pretty good case for it, PH. The third chart, therefore, that I am going to have a look at is one that we traded for quite some time. Well, I'd have to say a few months ago, because that's when we entered the trade. And we were looking at, if I can go probably to the biggest time frame, the monthly chart once again, you can see how pound Kiwi has just stayed inside what I call a range here, which is the ascending channel, and very, very difficult for this to break out of that. And every time it goes to a boundary, it comes back inside the range. So boundary here, back, boundary back, boundary back. I have no reason to think that this is going to change anytime soon. We got into a trade, as I said, I can't remember when it was, but it was back here somewhere, or maybe even back here. No, back here. We got into, so it's only about 3 or 4 months ago that we got into this trade, and I was expecting to go to here. Geez, I'm greedy, but I really did expect that to be the case. We decided not to trail our stops too tight. In fact, I think we took 2 lots of profit and didn't move our stop at all. And despite that 800 odd pips that we were up, it came back and took out our stop and entry. In profit, I've got to say, but we should have made much more out of it. So I'm still watching this and watching it quite closely. And again, similar to what I've described on Aussie CAD, I think that this is possible even to take this trade now. If you were to enter above that, this is the monthly chart I'm talking about. If you were to enter above that, you've got 950 pips of risk, but you've still got, 2,000 if it went straight to there. And if it takes its time, you've nearly got 3,000 pips. So it could still be a 3-to-1 trade, even on a monthly chart. I think there's probably better rewards, as I said, again, similar to Aussie CAD. There's probably better rewards available than that. So I'll be looking for this to pull back. Again, same old story. Once we've had that big rally, then I'd certainly be looking for it to pull back to get into it. The issue that I have at the moment is, where's it going to pull back to, and what am I going to trade it off? That's the daily chart. I've really got nothing to go by here in terms of entries. So I'm probably going to have to sneak down to smaller time frames as the week progresses. And maybe even, I don't know, I don't see anything available to me at the moment, but I'm very, very keen to trade it, as I want to get that 800 pips back, frankly. I don't know. I really don't know. The weekly pivot's up here now. So a pullback doesn't seem likely, but if I do get it, maybe that level is here, in here somewhere where we've already been. And that confuses the issue. I just don't see an entry for us at the moment. But I'll certainly be through the week. Those of you who are in the YouTube shows, or certainly in the US session, and my strategy group, I'll be definitely looking for this throughout the week. I've just got to see a pullback somewhere, and I'm not sure. Well, maybe that level is it. Maybe it is. We will see. But yeah, I'm dead set keen to get into it. That's pound Kiwi long. And again, I think the reward is substantial if we can find a way into that. The last one is Euro Swissy. Now, we're already in this trade, and this is extremely, extremely unusual for me. I've never traded this in my life before, but I saw a couple of weird things. And again, going back to this crazy chart where we've got this decoupling of the euro to the Swissy back in 2015, we've we came back to where that all began in May of 2008. I think it was May of 2008. It looks like May anyway. It's 2018. Since then, it's been a very, very gradual, but certainly a determined, if you like, trend to go, and I won't say challenge the low, but certainly challenge this area here. It's failed again to do that after it failed here and here. I think it's now given me a false break of that area if I go a little bit tighter. And this is what I saw last week. I saw this price dip below here, then come back above it and retest it with this bar here. It also sets up a nice little slingshot scenario again, approach, pullback, approach, pullback, approach, pullback on this candle here. In the meantime, on the weekly chart, it doesn't look so sexy, but if I go back to that monthly chart, you can see that it has broken above that serious trend line. That's a monthly trend line that goes back to March of 2018. So we have broken and closed above that level. In the same breath, if you like, we've come off the bottom, big bullish engulfing bar, higher high, higher low, and now we're looking to challenge that higher high again. The interesting part for me is that we've now bounced off the bottom of that rectangle. So no matter what chart I look at, I'm seeing things that I like. Break of the trend line after a big bullish engulfing bar on the monthly. On the weekly, I've come off the bottom of the range. And yes, we've been here many times before. Bang, 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 can't get there. Why is this the time? I don't know if it is the time, but it looks to me like there's a trade, certainly, and we're in that trade now, up to this level here. And what happens after that, of course, we as yet don't know. Even if you're not in this trade, and the weekly pivot's up here tomorrow, which is a little bit of a shame, and I'm not sure how it can be, frankly, but it is. Maybe I've got that wrong. Doesn't seem right. Can't be right. Let me get rid of that. I think I've got the wrong level on there. So, sorry, I'll take that back. That can't be the weekly pivot tomorrow. But we've had a massive breakout of this trend line here. Have we had a retest of it? Let me just fix that up. Not quite. But if I wasn't in this trade, I think it's even worth going long above that candle with your stop loss below it, maybe sneak it below the monthly pivot. Haven't got much left in the month, of course, but a couple of days, and there's a strong high here and a target up here in my humble opinion. So where do I see this going if it does go? Well, anywhere, any bloody where. But I definitely see this level here as probably first stop. And that's 110.29. We're currently at 108.02 or something. So there's another couple of hundred pips there. Even if we go to the what I consider to be the least the least profitable or potential that we could possibly find. If we're really right here and get a little bit lucky, then that level there, 114.43, which is 600 pips away, looks really, really interesting as well. So that's kind of why I wanted to get into this. I see the false break of this level. I see nice slingshot setups wherever I look, and on every chart, it looks to me as though this is going long. I'm happy that we've taken profit, I've got to say, because it's banging its head on a resistance level here as well. But that's the fourth of the week, mate, that I'll be looking at from tomorrow. And as I say, very, very unusual one for me. I've never traded that in my life, but it stood out like, as I say, the proverbial little dog's testicles.
Excuse me, guys. Mate, sounds good. Been a great show, guys. Gosh, I'm going to leave it back to you for a second, Geoff, and grab a. I think I'm okay. I'm slowly choking to death here.
Okay. I can talk about euro pound that Paul was talking about before.
Mate,
Actually, Geoff, I wanted to say something about Euro Swissy. It's like you, it's not a currency pair that I like to trade a lot. because it's often pretty spiky and volatile. If you go to a daily chart, that you can see the volatility, especially since it's really gone nowhere in the last few weeks. But I do like I have noticed that the Euro Swissy reacts to changes in risk sentiment in the markets. So, for example, when some bad news comes out, this thing can spike down, right? Meaning the Swissy gets stronger and the euro gets weaker. And when good news comes out, and it doesn't even have to be related to the euro, but when good news comes out, often I see the euro, taking ground away from the Swissy. So for me, it's also got a bit of a bullish feel to it after so many weeks of really going nowhere. But going nowhere means it's also not going down. And it does look like, and if you pulled up some RSI or something on this, I'm sure you'd be just above the 50.
What's that, mate?
Oh, it's an oscillator, but
I know what it is. I'm just pulling your leg.
Looking at the price action here, I just suspect that the relative strength would be just over 50 or so. So I think it could pop. Don't know how much it will pop, but it does have the tendency when it goes, it really goes.
Only one thing concerns me really, and it's this: false break, higher false break of my rectangle. That's my one of my favorite patterns to trade short, but it didn't break short, and that's what gives me. If that doesn't happen, then to me something else is going on, and when something else is going on, I want to be part of it. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but that's what I see. And I see all those things on the chart that are saying to me this can break to the high side.
Cheers,
so
guys.
Whether the RSI says yes or no, I don't know, but I say yes.
Well, that's if you say yes, you say
that's all that counts.
That's all that counts. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much, and thanks for covering for me there for a few minutes. I'm still going to need to make this reasonably brief. Thanks, everybody, for being with us this week. Been another great show. Thanks to the contributors for coming along and sharing your information. And as always, and thanks to the attendees for coming along and making it great. Don't forget to like the shows and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we will see you back next week with Chloe joining us as our special guest next week. Geoff will be back. Thank you, PH, Paul Hutton, for turning up as a guest today. Also, thank you to Ainslie, to Alexis, to Geoff, to Ash, and to Shukri for bringing your expertise in. It is much appreciated. Okay, guys, have a wonderful week. And remember, try and trade, make good decisions in your trade well, and don't have peanuts before you present. See you guys. Bye.
No, needs a bourbon, I think.
Oh, yeah, no trader chat tonight, guys. I've got an early start in the morning. See you guys. Bye.
Fair call.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Helen.